There are places on Earth where the planet's power is on full display, where molten rock breaks through the surface, where temperatures reach over 2,000 degrees, where the ground itself is alive, breathing fire and ash into the sky. These are the world's active volcanoes, not dormant relics of the past, but living forces that erupt today, tomorrow, without warning. They reshape landscapes overnight, create new land from liquid stone, remind us that Earth is far from finished. 50 to 70 volcanoes erupt somewhere on the planet every year. Most go unnoticed, remote and far from civilization. But some demand attention. Lava fountains shooting hundreds of feet into the air, rivers of molten rock flowing toward the sea, explosions that light up the night sky. This is extreme travel. Getting close to active lava means accepting risk. The heat is intense enough to ignite clothing from feet away. Toxic gases fill the air. The ground can collapse without warning. One wrong step, one shift in wind direction, and the consequences are immediate. Yet people are drawn to it. Scientists studying volcanic behavior, photographers chasing the perfect shot of glowing lava, adventurers seeking experiences that push boundaries. They all come to witness something primal, something that connects directly to Earth's molten core. 4 volcanoes stand out for their accessibility and activity. The Hawaiian Islands were born from fire. A hotspot deep beneath the Pacific Ocean has been pumping magma to the surface for millions of years. As the tectonic plate moves northwest, the hotspot stays in place, creating a chain of volcanic islands stretching across thousands of miles. The Big Island of Hawaii is the youngest and most active. 5 volcanoes built this island, and 2 are still erupting regularly. This isn't ancient geological history. This is happening now. Kilauea is one of the world's most active volcanoes, erupting almost continuously for decades. It's built the landscape of Hawaii's southeastern coast, layer upon layer of lava flows stacked over millennia. The entire region is volcanic terrain, black rock fields stretching to the horizon, evidence of countless eruptions. The lava here is basaltic, relatively fluid compared to other types. This creates shield volcanoes, broad and gently sloped rather than steep and cone-shaped. The eruptions are less explosive, more effusive. Lava flows rather than explodes, making it possible to approach active areas. This accessibility has made Hawaii a laboratory for studying volcanoes. Scientists have been monitoring eruptions here for over a century, learning how volcanoes work, how to predict activity, how lava behaves. The knowledge gained here applies to volcanoes worldwide. The Big Island is still growing. Every eruption adds new land. When lava reaches the ocean, it cools instantly, solidifying into rock. The coastline extends. Beaches form from volcanic fragments. The island expands, sometimes by acres in a single day during major eruptions. The landscape tells the story of fire and time. Old lava flows are weathered and grey, covered in vegetation. Recent flows are stark black, untouched by plants. The newest flows still steam, fresh from the earth. Walking across these surfaces is walking through geological time, from ancient to brand new. Volcanic craters dot the landscape. Some are inactive, filled with vegetation, their floors lush and green. Others still smoke, gases rising from vents, reminding visitors that the mountain is only sleeping, not dead. The largest crater, Halema-Uma'u, has been home to an active lava lake for years. The Hawaiian volcano goddess Pele is said to live in these craters. Local culture respects the volcanoes deeply, understanding that the islands exist because of them. Fire isn't feared here, it's revered. Destruction is also creation. The heat affects everything. Steam vents release hot vapor from underground. The air shimmers above fresh lava. Sulfur deposits color the rocks yellow and white. In some areas, the ground is too hot to touch, heated from below by magma that hasn't yet reached the surface. Tourism coexists with active volcanism. Visitors come to witness the power of creation, to see Earth building land, to experience something that exists in few other places. Viewing areas are established when safe, closed when dangerous. The volcano decides what's possible. At night, the glow from active vents and lava illuminates the sky. From miles away, the red glow is visible, pulsing and shifting as activity changes. It's a beacon, marking where the planet's interior breaks through to the surface. Hawaii's volcanoes are predictable enough to study, unpredictable enough to remain dangerous. They've created paradise islands, but they've also destroyed communities, buried towns, changed the landscape overnight. The islands give and the islands take away. This is the nature of living on an active volcano. Spectacular beauty with inherent risk. New land emerging from old. Fire creating the foundation for life. Hawaii exists because of its volcanoes, and the volcanoes aren't finished yet. The islands continue to grow, shaped by fire from below and waves from beyond. This is Earth in the act of creation, visible and ongoing. Iceland sits on one of the most geologically active spots on Earth. The island straddles the mid-Atlantic ridge, where two tectonic plates are pulling apart. As North America and Eurasia separate, magma rises to fill the gap. The result is an island built entirely from volcanic activity, constantly reshaping itself. Over 30 active volcanic systems dot the landscape. Some erupt every few years. Others sleep for decades before awakening. But the activity never truly stops. Iceland is a living laboratory of volcanic and geothermal forces. Recent eruptions near Reykjavik have been spectacular. Lava fountains lighting up the night sky just miles from the capital. Fresh lava flows cutting through landscapes, creating new terrain. These aren't distant, inaccessible events. They're happening close to civilization, visible to thousands. The landscape is dominated by volcanic features. Black lava fields stretch for miles, twisted and frozen mid-flow. Volcanic craters dot the interior, some filled with lakes, others barren and smoking. Entire valleys are carved from ancient eruptions, their walls black basalt stacked in geometric columns. But Iceland's uniqueness comes from the combination of fire and ice. Glaciers cover 11% of the island, sitting directly above some of the most active volcanoes. When these volcanoes erupt beneath the ice, the results are dramatic. Glacial floods release massive amounts of meltwater. Ash clouds rise through the ice, disrupting air travel across continents. Geothermal activity is everywhere. Hot springs bubble up from the ground. Geysers shoot boiling water into the air on predictable schedules. Steam rises from fissures and vents, visible across the landscape. The heat from below is so abundant that Iceland harnesses it for nearly all its energy needs. The ground itself is warm in many areas. Snow melts in patches where heat rises. Rivers run hot, fed by underground thermal systems. In some places, you can dig just a few feet and find water hot enough to cook in. Lava fields tell the story of Iceland's volcanic history. Some flows are ancient, covered in moss that's taken centuries to establish. Others are fresh, dating from recent decades, their surfaces still sharp and jagged. Walking across these fields is walking through time, each flow a snapshot of a different eruption. The landscape feels almost alien, otherworldly in its combinations. Volcanic eruptions have shaped Icelandic culture. Entire communities have been buried by lava. Islands have appeared overnight from underwater eruptions. The people here live with constant volcanic presence, adapting, moving, rebuilding when necessary. At night, active eruptions transform the landscape. Glowing lava against dark sky, the reflection on clouds above. Steam illuminated by fire below. Iceland's volcanic activity becomes even more dramatic without daylight to diminish the spectacle. The island continues to grow and change. New eruptions create new land. Lava flows extend coastlines. Volcanic islands emerge from the ocean. Iceland is still being built, pulled apart by tectonic forces, filled in by volcanic activity. This is what makes Iceland extraordinary. Not just volcanoes, but volcanoes with glaciers. Not just eruptions, but eruptions happening now, accessible, visible. Fire and ice in constant interaction, creating one of the most dynamic landscapes on Earth. Indonesia sits at the heart of the Pacific Ring of Fire. Over 130 active volcanoes spread across the Indonesian archipelago. More than any other country on Earth, these volcanoes have shaped the landscape, the culture, and the lives of millions who live in their shadows. The islands themselves are volcanic creations, born from eruptions beneath the ocean. The entire chain exists because of colliding tectonic plates, generating constant volcanic activity. Mount Bromo is one of Indonesia's most iconic volcanoes. Rising from a vast ancient caldera, its peak constantly smokes, releasing gases from the active crater below. At sunrise, the view is otherworldly. Multiple volcanic peaks emerging from mist, smoke rising from Bromo's summit. Kawah Ijen offers something even more unusual. Inside its crater, sulfur burns with an electric blue flame, visible only at night. The crater lake is the most acidic in the world, turquoise and deadly. These aren't remote wilderness volcanoes. People live on their slopes. Villages perch on ridges between peaks. Millions depend on these volcanoes for their livelihoods, accepting the risk for the benefits the volcanic soil provides. The landscape is dramatic. Sharp volcanic cones rising from tropical forests. Calderas filled with impossibly colored lakes. The volcanic soil is incredibly fertile, which is why people stay despite the danger. At night, the glow from active craters becomes visible. Red light reflecting off volcanic clouds. The landscape takes on an ominous beauty, beautiful and threatening simultaneously. Indonesia's volcanoes have destroyed and created in equal measure. They've buried cities and built islands. This duality defines life in the Ring of Fire. The people here respect the volcanoes, understanding that the land beneath is alive, that the mountains decide what happens next. Indonesia remains one of the most volcanically active regions on the planet. The Ring of Fire continues its work, shaping the landscape and the lives of those who call these volcanic islands home. Mount Etna is Europe's most active volcano. Rising over 10,000 feet above Sicily's eastern coast, Etna dominates the landscape. It's been erupting almost continuously for thousands of years. Ancient Greeks and Romans documented its activity. Every generation since has witnessed its power. Etna erupts more frequently than almost any volcano on Earth. Some years bring dozens of eruptions. Lava flows, ash clouds, explosive activity from multiple craters. The mountain is never truly quiet, always working, always active. The volcano sits at the convergence of the African and Eurasian plates. As the plates collide and the African plate subducts, magma rises through weakness in the crust. Etna is the result, a massive stratovolcano built from countless eruptions layered over millennia. The slopes are populated despite the constant activity. Towns and villages surround the base. Vineyards cover the lower elevations. The volcanic soil produces some of Sicily's finest wines and crops. Like Indonesia, the fertility makes the risk acceptable. The summit area is a constantly changing landscape. Multiple craters open and close. New vents appear. Lava flows alter the terrain. What was accessible last year might be buried this year. Etna reshapes itself regularly. Recent activity has been spectacular. Lava fountains shooting thousands of feet into the air. Rivers of molten rock flowing down the mountainside. These four volcanoes represent something fundamental about our planet. Earth is not a static rock floating in space. It's a dynamic system, constantly moving, constantly changing. The crust we live on is temporary, shifting, being recycled and renewed. Volcanoes are the most visible expression of this process. They've shaped human history, destroyed civilizations, and created fertile lands, altered climate and built islands. They've inspired fear, worship, and respect across every culture that's encountered them. 50 to 70 volcanoes erupt somewhere on Earth every year. Most go unnoticed, but they're all part of the same process, the planet's interior forcing its way to the surface, releasing pressure, building new land. The volcanoes will continue their work long after humans are gone. They operated for millions of years before we arrived. They'll operate for millions more after we're extinct.